If there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that 2017 was one of the best years in video game history. What a cruel fate that we should have to choose a single game of the year from the likes of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Nier Automata, Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn, Divinity Original Sin 2, or like 8 other games that probably deserve the title as well. But we've had years like this before. In 1998, we had Pokemon Red and Blue, Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, StarCraft, and Metal Gear Solid. In 2004, we saw the release of Half-Life 2, Halo 2, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and World of Warcraft. Good years in gaming aren't as rare as the 2017 Halo effect might lead you to believe, and we're all pretty lucky that we happen to be so in love with a medium that so consistently raises the bar and delivers breakthrough experiences with such regularity. If you asked me at the start of the year to summarize the medium of video games in a word, I'd have said progress. More than any other art form, video games have evolved and improved at an exponential rate. Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back was released in 1980, which was the same year that Pac-Man was unleashed on the world. Compare now the questionable progress that movies have made since then to what a modern-day game studio can produce today. Empire Strikes Back still sits proudly atop the pinnacle of the film medium, while Pac-Man is now the kind of game that 9-year-old kids can build for themselves in Minecraft. Since the moment video games were first willed into existence, they have been getting better and better. Without exception, next year was always going to be better than this year, and we could rest easy knowing that the trajectory of our hobby, our passion, was always up. But for the first time ever, in 2017, that trajectory has not only stalled, but is in fact nosedived. The unbroken record of year-on-year progress has been arrested by the actions of major developers and publishers taking the games and licenses we love and injecting them full of predatory monetization schemes that not only fleece players, but destroy the underlying video games that house them. To be clear, publishers choosing to further monetize their games beyond the retail price tag is not inherently bad. While I like the idea of paying $60 and getting a complete experience, I also respect that publishers may have ambitions for their games that stretch beyond the release window, and the ongoing costs of development and server hosting require income to realize these ambitions. If they want to sell me new stuff in-game, like weapons or armor or cosmetics to fund that vision, then fair enough. But it's the way that publishers are choosing to monetize that is corrupting our industry. Overwatch could choose to sell you the skin you want at a fair price, but instead they hide them behind predatory gambling-based loot boxes, which are designed to get you to spend more than you would otherwise spend as you chase that one specific holiday skin that you really want. Star Wars Battlefront 2 could choose to build a functional progression system separate from its gambling-based loot boxes, but instead it combines the two of them to incentivize you to spend, and it cranks up the in-game grind towards progress to absurd levels to further incentivize or force you to spend money. The problem is increasingly endemic, and it's important to see and call it for what it is: predatory. Recently, I appeared on the Destiny Community podcast where we talked about the idea of exploitation, and someone made the comment that Bungie is not exploitative. And I think that's a natural instinct when we think about the developers we love. We like to think of them as the good guys. I like Jeff Kaplan, the lead designer on Overwatch, and I like Luke Smith, the lead designer on Destiny 2. They are both good people. But at the end of the day, both of these guys sat down at a table with a bunch of other people and gave their personal assent to a decision to include predatory, gambling-based loot boxes in their games, because they were choosing to exploit their players for profit rather than give them the things they want either for free or through a monetization model that doesn't involve gambling. Luke Smith went further still, building almost the entire Destiny 2 endgame loot economy around loot boxes, much to the disappointment of most of the Destiny 2 community at this point. And people are right to be pissed because paid loot boxes are always, without exception, inherently predatory. They prey on our desire for things we want and our willingness to spend money in pursuit of it. Imagine walking into a car dealership and buying a mystery box that may contain a car, or it may just contain a steering wheel or a set of tires or whatever. Hell, imagine walking into a drugstore to buy a stick of gum and only having a 30% chance of actually getting what you're handing your money over for. We wouldn't make these stupid decisions in real life, but we do so in video games because people want the best gun gun, the best KD ratio, the best looking skin, the best emote, and if gambling for a chance at that is the only way to get it, then that's what people will do. The damage caused by these predatory practices in video games is increasingly structural. We used to earn our fighting game skins from completing in-game challenges, and now we pay for them. We used to be able to earn our armor shaders in Destiny, and they were infinitely reusable. Now we have to grind for them or earn them in loot boxes, and they're consumable to keep us grinding and spending. We used to purchase a rear spoiler to upgrade our handling in Need for Speed games, and now we purchase speed cards that... Man, I can't even finish that sentence. The saddest part of all of this is that there are people who will go to great lengths to defend these practices, citing things like, it's just cosmetic, it doesn't affect you if you don't buy them, or publishers need the money because AAA games development costs are skyrocketing. But all of these excuses are demonstrably false. Jim Sterling's recent video did an excellent job of skewering the "it's just cosmetic" argument. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is the perfect example of how everyone loses when a game is built around loot boxes, and the idea that development costs are unmanageable falls apart pretty quickly as soon as you look at the annual reports of publishers, which I did in my recent video, the Wilson Loot Box. In the case of EA, development costs in 2017 are lower than they were in 2009. Be sure to bring that up the next time someone tells you we need loot boxes to keep gaming alive. 2017 was a year in which publishers took the idea of microtransactions, combined them with the idea of chance, put that concoction into a box, and then stuffed those boxes into games that simply didn't need them. Can anyone argue that Shadow of War needed loot boxes, or Forza, or Need for Speed, or PUBG, or literally dozens of other games released this year? They didn't need them. And yet we look back now on a year with some of the greatest games ever released, and we cannot but feel a sense of dread about where all of this will go next. 2017 was a watershed moment in the fight for the soul of our industry. Publishers pushed things too far, and we pushed back harder than ever before. But despite this, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is still the #2 selling game in most territories according to various sources. If the backlash that broke Reddit isn't enough to stall the loot box juggernaut, have we any cause for optimism at all? I think we do. Recently, we've seen a number of developers release cheeky videos or tweets highlighting their pro-consumer stances. There's a counter-movement forming comprised not only of players, but also conscientious developers who love this industry and got into it to advance it, not to exploit it. 2017 was, in my opinion, the worst year in the history of video games because we took our first big steps backwards. But 2018 could be our best year yet if we're willing to back the publishers and developers that are willing to put us first. It's always darkest before the dawn, and while 2017 was a colossal disappointment, there's enough light shining through that I think things will get better. And we'll get right back on that path of evolution and progress that makes the gaming industry so unique and such a magnificent art form.